Today, I'm breaking down the 8 most extreme tornadoes in U.S. history. From the fastest, the widest, and the longest tracked, to the most devastating tornado ever documented on American soil, the Enderlin Tornado. Let's start with the most recent, because it ended something meteorologists have been watching for over a decade. It is June 20th, 2025 in Enderlin, North Dakota. For 12 years, not a single EF5 tornado touched down in the United States. The longest gap since the enhanced Fujita scale was implemented in 2007. Meteorologists debated why. Natural variability? Changing atmospheric patterns? Statistical anomaly? No one knew for certain. Violent tornadoes still occurred, but the absolute threshold of EF5 remained unbroken. Until Enderlin. A train was derailed and 33 fully loaded grain hopper cars and empty tank cars were tipped over or lofted into the air. One empty tanker car was thrown between 600 and 1,000 feet through the air. Multiple homes were destroyed. Trees were reduced to stubs, and the debarking had a distinctive sandpapering effect. The bark looked like it had been mechanically polished smooth by extreme winds. The tornado was initially rated high-end EF3, but after detailed analysis of the train derailment, the rating was upgraded to EF5 on October 6th, with estimated winds exceeding 210 miles per hour. 3 people died, and the 12-year EF5 drought was over, proving that maximum tornado violence hasn't disappeared. The Pilger Tornado. Most tornadoes move forward at 25 to 35 miles per hour, fast enough to be dangerous but slow enough that you can usually outrun them in a car. The Pilger, Nebraska tornado moved at 94.6 miles per hour, the fastest forward speed ever confirmed with modern Doppler radar measurement. It happened on June 16, 2014. Twin tornadoes, 2 separate EF4 vortices, developed simultaneously and carved parallel paths through northeast Nebraska. But one of them reached a forward speed that shattered every modern record. Think about what that means. You're driving on the highway at normal speed, and the tornado behind you is moving faster than you are. There's no outrunning it, no staying ahead of it. If you're in its path and you're not already in shelter, you're out of time. The twin nature of the outbreak created an impossible situation. One tornado blocked escape routes to the east, another to the west, and both were moving at speeds that made evacuation nearly futile for anyone caught between them. The damage reflected that speed. Structures didn't just fail, they exploded as the tornado blasted through at highway velocity. The brief warning time combined with the extreme forward speed created a scenario where even people who received warnings had minimal time to react. 2 people died, but the death toll could have been far higher if the tornadoes had maintained that speed through more densely populated areas. The Reno Tornado. On the 31st of May, 2013, a tornado rewrote the record books and shattered the storm-chasing community in ways that are still felt today. We're talking about the Reno Tornado that took place in Oklahoma. The Reno Tornado reached a maximum width of 2.6 miles, the widest tornado ever recorded. We're not talking about the damage path here, but about the actual rotating vortex. For perspective, that's roughly the width of 45 football fields laid side by side. But the size was only part of what made Reno deadly. The tornado didn't move in a predictable straight line. It changed direction rapidly and without warning. Multiple subvortices appeared and disappeared in chaotic, unpredictable patterns throughout the massive parent circulation. Storm chasers Tim Samaras, his son Paul, and colleague Carl Young were tracking the tornado when it suddenly changed course and accelerated directly toward them. They tried to escape, but the tornado overtook their vehicle. All 3 were killed. These weren't amateurs. Tim Samaras was one of the most respected tornado researchers in the world, with decades of experience and groundbreaking contributions to tornado science. If a tornado can kill someone with that level of expertise and experience, it proves that no one is truly safe when a storm becomes this unpredictable. The Western Kentucky Tornado. Most violent tornadoes happen in spring during daylight and dissipate after about 40 miles. The Western Kentucky Tornado from 2021, also called the Quad State or Mayfield Tornado, defied all of those patterns. It formed late at night during December and carved a devastating path across 4 states: Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee, and Kentucky. Now, here's where it gets complicated. The National Weather Service confirmed tornado damage over a path exceeding 165 miles. However, surveys are still debating whether this was one single continuous tornado or multiple tornadoes produced by the same parent supercell along an overlapping track. Either way, the result was catastrophic. The tornado was rated EF4 at peak intensity with estimated winds around 190 miles per hour. It struck the town of Mayfield, Kentucky directly, obliterating a candle factory where workers were on the night shift. 9 people died in that building alone. The total death toll reached 57. What made this event especially devastating was the timing. It hit populated areas at night when people were asleep. Visibility was zero. Even those who received warnings faced the nightmare scenario of trying to take shelter in complete darkness with a violent tornado bearing down on them. The tornado, or tornado family, maintained destructive intensity for over 2 hours, giving it time to impact town after town across 4 states. This was a modern reminder that December tornadoes can be just as violent as spring tornadoes, and that long-track tornado events can still occur in the 21st century. The Tri-State Tornado. It's the 18th of March, 1925. It's the time before Doppler radar or tornado warnings. The Tri-State Tornado formed in Missouri, crossed through Illinois, and finally dissipated in Indiana after staying on the ground continuously for 219 miles. It traveled for 3.5 hours at an average forward speed of 62 miles per hour, exceptional even by today's standards. 695 people died. It remains the deadliest single tornado in United States history, and the death toll will likely never be surpassed due to modern warning systems, improved building codes, and widespread access to storm shelters. Entire towns were obliterated. Murfreesboro, Illinois, a town of 11,000 people, lost 234 residents in a matter of minutes. The tornado moved so fast and was so powerful that people in its path had no warning and no realistic chance to escape, even if they had seen it coming. Even by modern standards, the Tri-State Tornado remains extraordinary. Its track length has never been conclusively matched, and its death toll has never been approached. The Smithville Tornado. On April 27, 2011, during the catastrophic 2011 super outbreak, 4 EF5 tornadoes struck parts of Alabama and Mississippi within a single day. The Smithville tornado hit northeast Mississippi with concentrated violence that produced damage engineers are still analyzing years later. Here's the detail that defies belief. An SUV weighing several thousand pounds was picked up by the tornado, thrown half a mile through the air, and hit the town's water tower at the top. When structural engineers calculated the trajectory, the loft height, and the horizontal distance, the physics required to achieve that result indicated winds at the absolute upper threshold of tornado capability. This wasn't just a vehicle being rolled or pushed. This was a multi-ton object being launched like a projectile and carried through the air for half a mile. But the SUV wasn't an isolated case. The tornado obliterated well-built brick homes down to bare foundations. A large brick funeral home was reduced to a concrete slab, with debris scattered and windrowed far from the original site. Other vehicles were either torn into unrecognizable pieces or simply disappeared, never recovered despite extensive searches. Unfortunately, 23 people lost their lives. The Joplin Tornado. On the 22nd of May 2011, during the Joplin Tornado, 158 people died. It was the deadliest single tornado since the 1947 Woodward tornado. But beyond the death toll, Joplin became the costliest tornado in United States history, causing $2.8 billion in damage. The tornado was 3/4 of a mile wide and carved directly through the center of Joplin, destroying or damaging over 7,000 homes. Entire neighborhoods were erased. The destruction was so complete that an engineering study later questioned whether the damage truly met EF5 criteria, arguing that many buildings were poorly constructed. The National Weather Service pushed back, pointing to extreme indicators like vehicle displacement, pavement damage, and ground scouring. The EF5 rating stood. Joplin changed how cities approach tornado preparedness, building codes, and warning systems. It proved that even in the modern era, with advanced radar and timely warnings, a tornado striking a populated area can still cause catastrophic loss of life and unprecedented economic damage. The Jarrell Tornado. Most tornadoes move forward at 30 to 40 miles per hour, spending perhaps 30 seconds to a minute over any given location before moving on. The Jarrell Tornado from 1997 moved forward at an average speed of just 5 to 10 miles per hour, and in some areas it nearly stalled completely. Imagine a violent tornado hovering over your neighborhood not for seconds, but for 5, 10, or even 15 minutes. Not passing through, but staying and scouring every square inch. The result of the Jarrell tornado was complete annihilation on a level rarely seen even in EF5 tornadoes. Well-built homes weren't just destroyed, but completely vanished. Foundations were swept completely clean with debris scattered so far from the original sites that identification became nearly impossible. The slow forward movement meant that every structure endured extreme winds for a long time. 27 people died. The damage was so exceptional that the tornado was rated F5 on the original Fujita scale, with some researchers suggesting winds may have exceeded 260 miles per hour based on the foundation damage and ground scouring observed. So, which of these 8 tornadoes shocks you the most? Tell me in the comments, and if you want more extreme weather breakdowns, hit subscribe.